Welcome to the Digital Accomplice Podcast. Today we're joined by Tom Fallowfield. Tom, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little background on what you do?
Hey, yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. I am a digital marketing consultant with a focus on messaging, I guess. I work with my clients tend to be coaches and consultants, course creators, anyone who offers their clients a sort of a transformation from a bad place to a good place. And I help them with their core messaging and to sort of wrap it up into a sales pitch which can then be used on their website or in anywhere they communicate, really. So that's what I do.
Yeah, and you do it quite well. I've noticed you've sort of made a big splash recently on LinkedIn, kind of getting out there with video, and that's what we talk about on this podcast is really content marketing with video, what video can do to help you. And I think you're just a great example of someone who seemingly out of the blue started to do video and launched your company, a Vanilla Killer, and are just like making waves left and right. How is that going for you? What would be sort of like the big success you've seen with using video on LinkedIn right now?
Well, thank you. So, yeah, there's a brief story. Before Vanilla Killer, I used to run a web design agency, and that all just completely fell apart in September last year. Had become far too reliant on three clients, and one of them went bust, and one of them petered out, and one of them just just ran its natural course. So I was left sort of, really stuck for finding new clients. And then I kind of, in that period, I sort of realized that being a generalist web designer wasn't really what I wanted to do. So I thought through the elements of the previous job that I actually enjoyed. And I realized that the thing I got most pleasure from was, yeah, helping clients form, discover I suppose if it doesn't sound too cheesy, discover the why behind what they do and kind of help them express themselves in terms that really capture people's imagination, and invite people to join them. So I knew I could do that, and I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to kind of package it up and sell it. And so I hit on this idea of a productized service. So for a simple fixed rate, we'll kind of go into people's companies and just help them marshal their words and figure everything out and wrap it all up as a sales pitch. And that's still evolving over time. But yeah, so I had this kind of productized service, if you will, but I didn't know how to get it out there. And I was just kind of noodling on LinkedIn, I'd done a little bit of text posting, but no videos. And it just seemed to be that video was really exploding at the time. There was kind of Lewis Butterfield was taking off, and a few others. And I just thought, well, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And everyone always says your first 25 videos go nowhere. But I posted my first video, and just completely by luck, it went kind of mini viral, I guess you'd call it. I got 125,000 impressions, which for me, I'd never got more than 500 on any of my posts before that. So it was a real, like, I at that time I thought, hey, I've cracked it. I know life's going to be easy from now on. Right? And that first video got me 3 paying clients, literally, which was beyond anything I could have dreamed of at that point. The video was really just a kind of it was a little kind of an explanation. I suppose it was in a way my own sales pitch, but it was an explanation of why I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake people make, and it's certainly a mistake I've made when if you're given something to market, your first thought is, well, it needs a website, and you kind of jump straight to the website point, and you kind of miss the thing that should be upstream of all of that, which I believe is the kind of figuring out your core message, is kind of getting to the heart of the value that you're offering, and how the thing you're selling does create that transformation in people's lives. Because if it doesn't, then there's no point, right? If it doesn't do something good for
Yeah.
people, then there's no point in selling it. And so it's getting your head around that transformation, is the key to it. And once I'd got my head around that for my own service, this video kind of flowed out of me. And yeah, then the rest is history. I mean, the rest is ongoing history. I mean, none of my videos since then have done anything like as well as that. But I've been trying to do. I think I'm up to about 32 videos, or some low 30s. So I don't know how many that is. I mean, it's been 2.5 months of doing it, so it's
Yeah.
I'm doing, I guess it's about 3 a week. on average. And like occasionally, these days I get a sort of a few leads per week from the videos, and I get the sort of similar number of leads from my outreach efforts as well. So it's a kind of combined strategy of those two things.
Yeah, yeah. We
Um,
wouldn't we wouldn't want people watching to think that you can just do one video and all your problems are solved and everything will go perfectly from then on. But it was kind of interesting to see, just as an observer from the beginning of when you did that first video, just watching how you've really kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and done lots of different types of video, different tone, different messaging. And I heard you kind of already touched on this about how things aren't going as well as that first video necessarily. So what would you say for you right now is like the biggest marketing challenge, and like how are you using video in particular to kind of continue to chip away at that?
Well, I suppose the biggest marketing challenge is lead generation at the moment. So I'm building this thing up from zero with a low following on LinkedIn. I've sort of started at about 700. It's up to about 1,700 now or something like that. Um, so the biggest challenge is getting eyeballs onto what I'm doing. So I'm going for kind of maximum exposure at the moment. So to that end, my strategy is to do, I think, sort of mostly. I think I'm probably about. I'm not as scientific as I should be about it, but probably about 5 out of 6 of my videos are aimed to be just pure value for people to follow. So I'm just trying to just give away everything that I know, um, and on the the trusting basis that maybe there's a karmic force at work in the universe, and some of that will come back, and it does seem to come back. I mean, people are following and people are getting in touch, but yeah, aiming to position myself as an authority in front of as many people as possible, and then trying to start conversations with those people, and then those conversations that I start with people typically involve me offering to do a free, no strings attached website review video where I would kind of go through their website or their LinkedIn profile page and just give my best feedback. Again, giving away more value for free. Um, and then just really hoping that by the end of that they see me as enough of an authority on that. And I do enjoy doing those private review videos as well, and they some of them convert, but a lot don't. And actually I don't really mind. It's nice to kind of get into. They always convert to a phone call, so I always have a really enjoyable phone call with the client, and I just really enjoy those calls. And I think some of it is going to turn into business long term. Some of it turns into business immediately, and some of it goes nowhere. I just have one other person in the world thinking that I'm vaguely useful, which doesn't
Yeah,
do any harm.
right.
Um,
Okay. So yeah, it
hmm.
sounds like you're definitely using video for one of the ways is like sort of just general awareness and then building trust by sharing, giving away your knowledge for free. Do you look at like the different ways that you're using video? And I've seen you experiment with different formats. Are you looking at that as like uh, tied to the funnel process? You know, sort of like you're doing content for one stage of the funnel at a time. How do you just kind of look at the various forms of content that you're doing now, and then also what would you like to be doing that you're not there yet to do?
That's a really good question. At the moment, mostly it's top of funnel stuff, and I think there's a lack in my output at the moment of middle and bottom of funnel stuff where I'm just I mean, but largely I mean I spend a lot of time talking about social proof and how you need testimonials. I because it's such a new business, I'm very short of social proof because it's early days. I mean, my first client that I signed back in December, he's only just deployed the messaging that we've created or that I've created for him over the. It took a long time to kind of work through the messaging, and then his web designer has implemented that on the website. So that's only gone live very recently. So we're sort of watching the numbers closely. But hopefully that will result in social proof. So it takes a long time to get the social proof. So I suppose the middle of funnel would be the case studies and the social proof, and then the bottom of funnel would be more of my own pitching, and just sort of my offer, me making my offer. So I think that's where the gap is, but I think that's why the gap is there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so it's 2025. We would be remiss if we didn't talk about AI. So every time I say the word, I'm just like, am I going to regret It's gonna be one of those words that we hate that we said at one point. So anyway, so how are you using AI in your video creation process, if at all? And then sort of what stage is that, like pre-production planning? Is there anything in production you're doing, or in editing, or using something like the script to edit with?
Um, I use AI as I kind of use it like a PA. It's in a weird way. So I find myself on car journeys. I find myself chatting to it, and I just kind of like, if I have an idea, I'll kind of rant an idea at it, and then ask for it to read back what I've said, and then very occasionally I'll ask it to kind of rewrite something, or I'm really hesitant to allow it to write my words. I want really my words to be my words, and also I want my, in terms of my client work as well, that's messaging. And I feel like really I feel very strongly that that a sales pitch, whether it's mine or the ones that I'm creating for my clients, should create a human connection between the seller and the buyer, and a unique voice, and a sort of, a personal connection. And I don't, I have yet to see anything that AI has written that's able to kind of, make you, I think you buy from someone when you feel understood and when you feel seen by that person. There's an emotional connection needed. It's very difficult to have a robot fake that. I mean, the best it can do, and it does it very well, is to pastiche other people's work. And probably pastiche other AI's work now as well, because you never know where it's getting its content. But so it's brilliant for kind of dinner party laughs, where it's describe how to cook an egg in the style of Ernest Hemingway or whatever. It's fun for that, but I wouldn't use it for. I mean, for a start, I would feel like a hypocrite. Why would a client pay me to do something with AI when they could just do it with AI themselves? So there's that. But also, you asked me how I use it in my video production process, and I use it as a repository for my ideas, and to sort of help me. I'll say things like, if I'm doing a video series, I'll write the hook, if if the same hook or the same call to action for all the videos. AI will be the one that copies and pastes that. I'm using copy and paste metaphor, even though I'm sure that's not what it's actually doing, but it's whatever it is doing, I have no idea. But I would use it to, I would say, take my new hook and apply that to all the video scripts in the series. And so it's holding all I treat it like a word processor, I suppose. It's holding those words, and a word processor you can converse with, which is a very useful thing. It's not, obviously I'm not going to stand here and say it's useless and it's got no place in the world, because it's changing everything. And I think that quote somebody said, where it's not AI that's going to take your job, it's someone using AI that's going to take your job. That hit home quite hard, I think. And so I want to understand it and get the most out of it. But then I also don't think it's going to replace that human connection between seller and buyer, which is my bread and butter.
Yeah, and it's such a great point to talk about as video creators, because I feel like this is one place in particular where what we're doing right now is all about authenticity and human connection and showing you how we are, right? This is where we're showing you the world, like our humanness. And so I challenge you to tell me how AI is going to make me more human in this context, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not, there's not really a good way to do that in the production stage. Sure, pre-production, post-production, but like if you're capturing the humanness, it doesn't show itself to me now of like how you're going to use that. So, and I wanted to get your take on repurposing. I don't know that I would expect that you have a lot of repurposing strategy just yet, because you've just started to do your video content recently. One of the reasons I started this podcast was to do a long form interview that then gets purposely, pre-purposed to repurpose as shorts to post daily. And I've been doing that for almost 6 months now. And so this has turned out to be a pretty good repeatable model for me to at least test and work it through the paces and see how it's working. Are you doing anything similar like that? Or do you think that you would approach a repurposing model similar to that?
I am thinking about it, actually. One of my biggest challenges, and I think it's because I'm so kind of verbose whenever I'm trying to talk,
Yeah.
is keeping a short form video short. It's a struggle for me, and I think maybe at some point I'll give into it and start producing longer form content, put it on YouTube, more in depth kind of explainers and how to craft a perfect headline, or the sort of tutorials like that, which I think belong on YouTube. And then I think those, if done right, should yield a few snippets that you could put on LinkedIn, or certainly trailers, so you could say, click the link for the full, go over to YouTube for the full
Yeah.
video. So yeah, I think so. And then also I think I'm possibly going to maybe steal your idea and start trying to connect with bigger accounts on LinkedIn, and try and pitch them with the idea of just a 2-minute conversation, and record it and cut that into a video, and try and find some way of finding something that would benefit them from the transaction. Because I think that's a great way of sharing value.
Yeah, it's been great fun for me. I get to meet a lot of cool people as well. And like while I'm meeting you, I'm also like making content to share. It's kind of like a 2 for 1. And then
Yeah,
you get to promote it, and you get a win out of this. And so it's and then anyone watching this gets to know both of us at the same time and get double the value, assuming I'm also adding value to the conversation. So
you definitely are.
yeah, thank you so much. So, speaking of adding to the conversation, I want to talk about measurement. You kind of touched on this earlier about like your first post going viral, and then maybe not so much after that. So, how do you now look at measuring success? I mean, I think you and I are both in the same boat, since this is sort of like free to do, and we kind of do it on our own. Like, there's not a lot of return on investment other than just some visibility. Seems like it's worth it. Do you have a way of
Mm.
like measuring that was worth it, that wasn't kind of ROI and what you're doing with video?
It's very difficult, and again, there's nothing particularly scientific going on, but I'm getting a feel for it. I mean, I think I'm learning that. So yeah, as you say, I've been experimenting with different types of format. I've had some feedback. Some of them I've tried to vaguely be a bit funny, and I've had some feedback that the funny ones, and the funny ones do seem to be the ones that get me the clients, I think, rather than the kind of just the tips and the tricks.
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose that there's a lot of people giving probably quite similar tips to the sort of stuff that I know about.
Yeah,
So maybe the sense of humor is a bit more of a unique thing to leverage. I don't know. It's difficult to know how to make sort of testimonials or something like that into
yeah,
a comedy skit. But yeah, and again, last week I did a series about social proof, and they all had the same hook, and they all had the kind of different bits of value, different tips in them, and the same call to action at the end. And the number 3 out of 5, again, like they were all pottering along under 1,000 impressions. Number 3 out of 5 went up to 25,000, and I was suddenly thinking, "Oh, this has hit the big time," but it didn't get me any work. It just got loads of. They were not even views. The, my very first one ages ago, it had a very high number of impressions, but also a very high number of views. Whereas this one had a very high number of impressions, but a really low number of views. I have no idea why.
yeah,
Possibly that's a comment about how good the hook was, or it's a mystery to me what made that one out of the 5 get picked up. I
yeah,
suppose the algorithm is watching how people react to these things, and the right number of people of the right category reacting at the right time.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you could obsess about that stuff, but you wouldn't really be any further on, because you can't really control how people react to it, apart
yeah,
from just doing your best to make good content.
yeah. So it sounds like we're in the same boat. We're just assuming there's algorithm voodoo going on, and we're just like, as long as we just keep showing up, good things will happen. And we don't really know yet which ones are going to do well. So okay, I mean that. I guess that's good enough for now, right? Like if you're someone like us who can kind of create this ourselves and put it out there, then it seems like a reasonable strategy for now.
I think so. I think, yeah, as you say, just showing up. Firstly, whatever you do in life, if you do it enough, you get better, all else being equal, right? And secondly, with a social media following on it, although I read that it's based more now on the interest graph than the social graph. So the follower count, it goes up, and I'm sure that does mean that there'll be more eyes on the content, although probably not as many more eyes on the content as there were when it was purely the social graph, whereas now it's the
Right.
interest graph. So the quality of the content is key. But then I guess that can't help but improve as we learn our skills.
Yeah, I just have this faith that it'll all come clean in the wash. I look at some other people like there's this guy that killed Tony. I forget his last name, but he basically has this comedy show he's been doing for 10 years, right? And he's like brings amateurs on stage and roasts them as they do comedy. And like his beginning stuff sucks, but like, over 10 years, you really hone your craft. And like, imagine if we keep doing this for 10 years where we could be. It's kind of like
Yeah.
hard to imagine that not working out somehow. So
Yeah. 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 Completely.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
within that context and the context of the conversation, focusing on video in particular, do you have like a piece of advice to leave people with, like one golden shining nugget that they can take away from your experiences and sort of your expertise? What would you say that could be?
Yes, I suppose it would be that the way to focus on how you talk about what you do is to go back to that thing I said at the beginning, is to keep everything focused on the transformation. So that you need to paint a picture of your client where they are now, and remind them why it's a slightly suboptimal place to be, and then paint a picture. Allow them to imagine themselves in a world where that problem that they have, or that pain point that they have, has been resolved. Get them to inhabit that world, get them to get attached to that world, and then you can very casually position yourself as the bridge from sort of bad island to good island, if you will. And then deploy as much social proof as possible to show that that bridge is as many people have crossed that bridge as you can, and to show them getting success from that transformation. And then if you can do all of that, then yours is the world and all that is in it. um,
There you go. Sage advice from Tom Fallowfield. Thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your insight, your story, and your wisdom. If people want to, get to know you better, follow up with you, maybe do some business with you, what would be a good next step? How should they get in touch with you and see what you're up to?
Thank you, Dane. Yes, so my website is vanillakiller.com. And I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. I'm on there a hell of a lot. So
Yes, you are.
yeah, LinkedIn is LinkedIn's the place to find me.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's been so fun talking to you. I'll be seeing you on LinkedIn, and thanks again for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Dane. Thank you so much.